Okay, so I know we have people coming in. So we'll wait, give it a few minutes for everyone to come in. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. I am Lori Safford, Director of Student Services in the Rosen College of Hospitality Management, where I also serve as adjunct faculty and chair of our Diversity and Inclusion Committee. And since it's Black History Month, I also want to let you know that I'm a proud member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the first female sorority within the Divine Nine. And we are all sisters and brothers within the Divine Nine serving our community. So I want to give a shout out to anybody else that's here as a part of my family. I'm also very honored to be your moderator for this What's Next Conversation Series, a virtual conversation on best practices for reaching the next career level. And boy, are you in for a real treat today. I'm going to put on my pilot hat as we are about to be taken to a higher plane by a group of phenomenal panelists. They all have great experience and expertise in their respective roles and are very passionate about your success and about UCF. I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves in alpha order, beginning with Ms. Courtney Hand.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Courtney Hand. I am with our Student Development Enrollment Division, particularly with Career Services. Thank you.
And then after Courtney, we have Miss Veronica Hayes. Veronica.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Veronica Haynes. I am the Associate Director for Experiential Learning under the Division of Student Learning and Academic Success.
Thank you, Veronica. And then we have Dr. Jana Jasinski.
Thanks, Lori. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jana Jasinski. I'm a professor of sociology, and I also serve as the Vice Provost for Faculty Excellence, which means I work in academic affairs in the Office of the Provost.
Okay, and then we have Ms. Shar Ann.
Yes, good afternoon and happy Black History Month. My name is Sherry Ann Stewart. I work in human resources, talent acquisition specifically, which we handle all non-faculty hires for the university.
Awesome. Thank you so much, panelists. And as we take off, we will begin discussing the critical components of resumes and curricula vitas, which today we will refer to as CVs in this discussion. So let's get started. I know you've heard the term, you never get a second chance to make a first impression. Well, in the career world, your resume is literally your first impression. So my first question is for Ms. Courtney Hand. What components do you feel make a great resume?
It's actually a great question, and I hear it from students all the time as well as professionals. And I always communicate that it really depends, right? We know that we have our standard sections on our resume, our education, obviously our professional experience, relevant experience, all of those things, right? But we really want to consider our intentionality with it. What are we applying for? What is the end goal here? What are our directions? What are our options? So, for instance, if you are, if you are a engineer, right, and maybe you are just leaving your undergraduate career and you are looking forward to moving forward in that workforce, you may communicate a lot of the project that you've done. Your senior projects are huge here, right? If you're already a professional in any career, right, you may want to communicate anything along the lines that is relevant to what you have done, right? And a lot of times that will be your relevant professional experience. So again, it depends on the, where we're trying to go, what's the direction, what we want to communicate. We want to communicate relevance. Relevance is important. I want to see how much, right, sooner rather than later in your resume, you are associated with what you're trying to apply for and where you're trying to go.
Awesome. Thank you. Wonderful insight. Can I also direct that same question to Dr. Jasinski in regards to a CV?
Can I just say ditto to what Courtney said? It's very similar. The biggest difference between a resume and a CV is often the length. So a resume typically is going to be 1 page, maybe 2, or a CV is going to be much longer in some cases. But the key components that Courtney mentioned are still important. So what are you trying to convey to the individuals who you're applying to? For faculty positions, it often depends on what type of position you're applying to. So if you're applying to a teaching position, they might want to see your expertise and your experience in teaching sooner rather than later in your CV. If you're applying to a research position, you want to make very clear about your research expertise in things like publications or presentations. The one thing I typically would advise people to do is to make sure your CV is clear, it's very organized, and to not be afraid of the white space. And what I mean by that is, because the limitations aren't there with 1 page, you have room to spread out and really make sure that your ideas are clearly presented, and that the most important things you want to convey, your education, your experience, are going to be one of the first few things that reviewers will see on your CV. The other thing I would say for a CV specifically is to really identify differences in the kind of work you do. And a good example might be if you are teaching classes that are face-to-face or online, and you're applying for a job that requires online expertise, make sure the online expertise is very clearly identified in your CV. If you're applying for a job that is asking for international presentations, make sure that your presentations are clearly identified as international. So really making sure your reader, no matter their background, can understand what you've done and you've told your story very clearly in your CV.
Excellent. Awesome advice. So that leads me to think about tailoring. I'll direct the next question to Veronica. How critical is tailoring within your resume to fit a specific role?
So I would say tailoring is very important. When you are submitting your resume or you're submitting that CV, or you have that cover letter, you really want to be able to speak to the skills and experiences as they relate to the opportunity that you're applying to. So typically with resumes, people are doing quick scans and trying to get an idea, are you a general fit, before they decide to go on and look at the document longer. So within those first 15, 20 seconds, if you have all of this experience, but it's not relevant to what that specific position is, they're just going to toss your resume to the side. Also with tailoring, really thinking about what are all of the experiences where you've gained those skills. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a paid position. Many people are involved in community organizations or in organizations on campus that can still be considered experience, particularly for those that may not have leadership skills within their paid, position, but they may have those skills or those experiences outside. So how can you also think about tailoring those experiences, regardless of if you received any sort of payment for them, in order to really speak and highlight to your fit for that position?
Awesome. So that also leads me to think about, how far can you go with tailoring before it becomes unethical? So Shari Ann, can you please share a little insight regarding tailoring, and in the HR world, how do you feel you should handle that?
Oh, wow. Okay. Again, so tailoring is going to be very important. Again, the relevant situations and experiences that you've had. And I like what Ms. Haynes said about digging deep to those volunteer experiences, but I wouldn't go as far as making things up or anything like that. But anything that you can draw from that just in any way relates, I would say would be fair game to use as far as the resume.
Okay. And so can you please share with us, Ms. Courtney Hand, how can students do that, say with volunteer experience or on-campus involvement, to enhance their resume, or faculty and staff?
No, absolutely. I'm sure we all are involved in many different associations and organizations where We have, taking on, leadership roles. We're committee members and we've done work, right? We may not have necessarily been, monetarily paid for it, but we have gained some experience within that. So we definitely want to consider those things that we have done, especially if you find yourself wanting to transition more into those roles that you've done, that you have had experience as a volunteer or a committee member or in a leadership role in association that may not be your primary position or your primary jobs. So we want to consider again what those things are. What have we done? Have we done a lot more marketing? Have we been on the marketing committee? Have we, have we worked with, things that we're doing now, building programming, building events? What have we done and where do we want to go and move in when it comes to that? A lot of, and when I communicate to students, when I communicate to young professionals, those things you can really communicate in your resume like you do with a position, especially if you have robust experience in it. There are some terms that I've sat on where I was in that leadership role in other associations for 2 or 3 years. I had robust experience within those. I can communicate that as if it was a job. So like Dr. Janciski was communicating, like if you, again, using marketing as an example, if you've had some marketing experience and what you've done in your current position doesn't necessarily detail those things. Make sure that you have relevant marketing experience if you want to move into that area more and discuss those things that you've done in your associations. Be detailed about them. Just because you haven't necessarily been paid again for those doesn't necessarily mean you didn't put in the work for those. It doesn't mean that you haven't garnered results for those things. So you want to be able to speak to those things and move forward in your associations and move forward in your work and your outside experiences. And when I mean outside experiences, again, outside of what you do as your standard position, right? You want to consider those things as your professional experience, not just something that you just do, right? But your professional experience just as much as what you do as far as the things that you do get paid for.
Thank you. Wonderful insight. Another great place to add accomplishments is a cover letter. Ms. Haynes, can you share with us how you can incorporate accomplishments within your cover letter to help you stand out?
So we think about a cover letter is really that opportunity for you to go into a lot more details about what is presented on your resume. So anything that is mentioned within that cover letter should also be, someone can refer to within that actual resume. And so that's the opportunity for you to really expand on. So going into detail about how you gain certain skills, what sort of accomplishments did you do? If you're thinking about, transitioning from one functional area to another, or thinking about transitioning from industry, that's an opportunity for you to really think about some of those transferable skills that you gain and whatever opportunities, again, volunteer, paid, etc., and be able to really connect the dots to show why you are a fit for that particular position, why you're a fit for that position, and then also what you can bring to the table. That's really what that, cover letter is designed for you to do, is for you to be able to sell yourself. Well, actually both documents, but really be able to sell yourself within that cover letter to kind of give them that tease to make them want to look at your resume further and kind of get a little bit more details into some of the experiences that you may have.
Awesome. Thank you so much. My next question is for Dr. Jasinski. We now know the importance of work-life balance. What should a candidate look for when identifying that next possible job role? For
That's a really good question.
Appointment, yes.
I think I would recommend understanding a little bit about what the job looks like before you decide to apply. So I've worked with lots of doctoral students, and we spent a lot of time talking about what does a faculty job look like, because the part of the job they see is really a small part of it. So they might see you in the classroom, they might see you working in a research lab, but that's only one part of it. So I would say take every opportunity to talk to individuals who are in those roles at different career stages to find out what is it that they actually do every day. What does a day look like? Because it is important. faculty jobs are flexible and not flexible at the same time. So they're flexible in that you might have only certain times in the day when you're required to be somewhere to teach a class, for example. But then there's a whole laundry list of things that have to get done. And when does that happen? So if you're teaching large classes, we have large classes at UCF, and say every student in the class emails you twice a week, you could be doing email all week long. So how do you balance some of that? So understanding what that looks like, being in the faculty role, becomes really important. Understanding the different types of faculty roles. So at UCF, we have faculty who are primary instructional faculty. We have faculty who are research active faculty, and their days look a little bit different. They're more or less structured depending on what they're doing, and the expectations are different. So to maintain that balance, I think it's understanding a little bit about what kind of job you want to get into, and talking to individuals and kind of asking them, what's the good, the bad, and the ugly of this job? So I am walking in with my eyes wide open.
Awesome. Thank you. So my next question is to Ms. Courtney. Can you share any learned insights regarding negotiating a good employment package, such as like remote work, flexibility, or salary?
No. Great question. It's like, where do we start with this one? Well, the first thing I want to communicate is, and you mentioned some of it here, Lori, it's a package, right? It's not just, that primary salary. And I know the first thing that we think of is money, and I get it. That's something to consider too, but we have to think of the benefits package as well, So if you are in private sector, but you're looking to maybe go back to school, is there tuition assistance? How does that fit into your, into your future, right, as far as where you want to go, your health package, right? I talk to students all the time, and they're unaware that there's that health package, there's dental, and there's eye, right? Those are three different things, it just doesn't roll up into one. So consider, again, everything that you may be looking for, and then compare that to, again, your future, your lifestyle. What do you have going on now? Are you paying back student loans? You may want to consider that. There's, the student loan forgiveness program if you're working in a public sector. So that's something to consider as well. You want to consider living in the area, especially if you're moving cost. You may be used to living cost in your area that you've been, let's just say, here in the Orlando area for the last 10 years, but maybe you're considered moving to Seattle for a position. That's a whole nother market, right? That's a whole nother living cost. So again, you want to compare those things because what may seem like a great package may not necessarily be the best situation for you when you consider some of these elements to your direction and where you want to go and your life. So again, think the entire package, think salary, think benefits, think health packages, other things that they may have communicated to you, like the tuition and reimbursement, tuition assistance, anything along those lines. And please take the time to think about those things. Ask if you're offered a position, ask for 24 to 48 hours to really hone in on, okay, what have you been offered, so you can really think about, okay, is this the best decision and the best direction for me?
Awesome. Thank you. So I'll open the next question to any of the, I'm sorry, sure.
I was going to say, can I add something to that?
Yes.
And I was also going to say, and I know we'll probably talk about this later on, but that's where networking and talking to people also comes into play, particularly for individuals that want to move into senior level positions. You may not know what are all of the things that comes in that package or what you can actually negotiate for. And so having individuals, whether it's mentors or just people who you can talk to, and you can say, I'm thinking about this type of position. What are some of the things that you were able to negotiate outside of salary that you can also be able to have conversations, about through that negotiation process for yourself.
And can I add also that for faculty, in addition to the benefits of being an employee, faculty also negotiate things like teaching loads, particularly in the first couple of years. And for faculty applying to research positions, startup packages. So what do you need in terms of equipment or resources to get your research going? And the other thing I will say, I think we kind of hinted at this, is you should always ask and never assume the answer is going to be no. I think that's the best piece of advice I ever got, is you should always ask the question, because if they made you the job offer, they want you to come work for them. And now it's up to you to make sure it's the best offer they can give you. So I would always encourage anybody to make sure you're asking for the things you need to have, and decide yourself what's a must have and what's a I'd like to have. And so think about that for any job offers.
Awesome. Thank you. So I've also heard that you should only apply for jobs that you are qualified for. But then I've also heard to apply for jobs that you're not 100% qualified for, and maybe you can seek that opportunity to advance. So what are your recommendations regarding that?
I would say that you should always consider just sister roles or even sister industries. There's a lot of competencies that can be taken from just different positions just across the board. Just for instance, my background, I have a hospitality background, but a lot of the competencies still help me, in the higher education role, as far as being customer focused, getting problem solved, paying attention to detail, and being able to listen. So I think if you just pay attention to, the job descriptions and to see how much your past experiences can relate, you definitely should try for those jobs that at first glance you wouldn't think of, but you never know how the situation might end up with you, changing just your roles. So yeah.
Awesome. Would anybody else like to add?
Could I add, most of the time when there are faculty positions, particularly for faculty that are tenure track faculty or tenured faculty involve research, there's a specific area that's listed. So for example, I'm a sociologist. They might say, we're looking for a sociologist who specializes in medical sociology. So if you have credentials, experience, and skills related to that, then by all means apply to it. But if I was an environmental sociologist and I cannot make the connection to medical sociology, then it would be a little bit more challenging to think about how your application may be. So it's more about the area of research, because they're looking for someone to expand on a particular area to their department. But beyond that, skills really matter. So they may be looking for a generalist, or they may say, hey, yes, you're an environmental sociologist, but there's such a thing as environmental health related to medical sociology. So make the link if you have it. So I guess I would think, read the ad very carefully, and then think about how you can actually fit what they're asking for, and highlight those aspects in your letter and in your resume, your CV.
Okay.
And I can jump in here too. When it comes to just the beginning processes, right? And you're looking at the job description, I always like to communicate to highlight the things that you feel like you have done, right? The skill, like in green, just pick a highlighter, right? Like just, the things that you feel like you have done within that job description. And when you do that, really think about where those particular things that they've been asking or that they want, or their recommendations, where does that fit in your, in your resume? Where does that fit in your professional experiences? So that's one thing that I do communicate. There's some things that are just, like huge jumps, right? Like nobody is asking you to, go and become a doctor, but, obviously, obviously there needs some more training when it comes to that. But yes, like we've all mentioned here, skills are very much so important. Don't necessarily discount yourself because you've never held that particular title before. I find that a lot of people will look at the title and say, well, I've never been an assistant director of marketing before, or I've never been an instructor for that particular class before. They never really take the time to really, digest the skills that they're looking for and how they really encompass those skills. So take that time. And like Veronica was saying earlier, that's where networking and mentorship comes in. Really connect with your mentors, really say, this is kind of what I'm seeing, what I've been attracted to. This is what I've done. How can I connect those links?
Awesome. I think that's an excellent segue into our next area of conversation. And many of us have transferable skills. Now we would like to look at professional development and how we can enhance ourselves through networking and building our resume. So the first question I have is for let's give this to Ms. Haynes. Veronica, why is professional development important?
So professional development is just important. It gives you that opportunity to really, develop additional skills, particularly for those individuals who may be looking to, eventually go into leadership roles or into certain types of roles, and you may not be getting what you need out of the current job. So that professional development allows for you to get skills that you need to prepare for future opportunities outside of your role. It's also a great opportunity for you to network. It's also a great opportunity for you to stay up to date with whatever's going on within your particular profession. So you can't say you aspire to be in leadership roles, but you aren't a part of any sort of professional associations. And so you don't know the conversations that are going on within your profession. So you can't lead anybody because you don't know anything. So, really thinking about, how can you, stay relevant? And again, being, taking advantage of those professional development opportunities is one way for you to get skills that you may not be able to get within your role. I would also say professional development comes in many forms. So everybody wants to go to conferences, everybody wants to travel, but sometimes that's not possible. Thinking about what opportunities can you take advantage of to develop yourself professionally, whether it's right here on campus. Maybe there's, other, institutions around the Orlando area that have, certificate programs or leadership development programs that you can take advantage of. Again, lots of organizations within the community offer, professional development opportunities as well. So also thinking about what outside of the traditional sense of, going to conferences, et cetera, can you take advantage of in order to professionally develop yourself?
Okay, awesome. And Dr. Jasinski, can you please share a little more regarding opportunities for faculty?
Yeah, I think Veronica mentioned conferences. That tends to be the traditional way that faculty engage in professional development, but you don't have to necessarily attend a conference. I'm not a big traveler myself, but I can remain connected through different subgroups that are part of professional associations I belong to. So today you've got listservs and blogs and connections and video meetings, and those are different ways to stay connected, but not have to travel. But volunteering to serve on committees helps, particularly if you're in an area that doesn't have a traditional conference or traditional professional organization. If you can meet your fellow peers or individuals who are the next step up and start having conversations with them, they can provide opportunities for you to think about how you can develop yourself. And it's networking, but it's also development. So again, moving beyond the traditional standard academic conference, but also learning additional skills. So in the world of faculty, learning skills like increased technology. How do we think about how to deliver our courses, for example, getting additional technological skills? What about conversations, teaching squares, talking about how can we think about what we thought we knew about good teaching and expand and innovate and move and improve? And those are all conversations, and you can be part of them, you can be leading them. And in documenting that and talking about those skills as a way to really think about how you can develop your own skills and constantly moving forward and constantly learning.
Awesome. And that's key to growth and networking. So with that, Sherry Ann, can you please tell us how important is networking?
Networking is going to be, the key ingredient to your success moving forward. Finding those mentors, and if you don't have them as readily accessible, going out to those professional associations and meetings and just talking yourself up and finding someone who is in a position to where you would like to see yourself one day, and keeping that long-term relationship is really going to get you to where you want to be.
Okay, awesome. With that, Sherry, and can you also tell us, as far as an advocate, have you had an advocate on campus? Or is there any opportunities through HR to seek an advocate or a mentor?
I'm trying to dig deep. Been just with the university a short time now, but I think if you can just talk yourself up to someone that you do know, that they can reach out and get you an opportunity, whether it's through an internship or work study program, but there's always a way to kind of get there.
Yes. So the reason I brought that up, I just think at the university, we don't have the opportunity to cross-train and learn the roles of others. So I think that would be a wonderful initiative to help us grow and develop professionally. With that, I'll go to Courtney. And can you please share with us how important it is for an advocate, and what experience have you had with a mentor or advocate on your behalf at the university?
Yeah, no, we were having this conversation just a few days ago. We were at the BFSA mentoring celebration, right? So, having the opportunity to have a mentor can lead you into so many different places, not necessarily, places physically, right, with these opportunities, but just mentally and emotionally as well, right? Because we always say here in career services for a while now, you have 4 C's of mentors. You have the cheerleader, you have your challenger, you have your connector, and then you have I just put it here, your coach, right? So, you can have all of those individuals in one, all those things in one individual. You can have a mentor that's just a challenger, a mentor that's just a coach. More than likely, you probably have someone out there that you just haven't tapped into yet, right? That you haven't officially kind of asked or ordained to be your mentor. But with that being said, I know that, I'm a little bit more of an extrovert individual. So, my husband jokes with me that I can make a friend anywhere. So I do understand that there are some more introverted individuals where it's a little bit harder to kind of step out there and kind of make those connections. So I always say start in-house first. So start where you are. So at work, is there someone that again is with you, that is at your level or right above your level, or is there a supervisor that you can really kind of tie into that mentor? Because your supervisors can be that. Some are very good mentors. Is there someone if you go to church, is there someone at church that can be mentors? If you have any extracurricular activities, always try to find a mentor within the area that you're in professionally. But professionals just in general can be helpful, right? Because we talk about those skill sets, we talk about everything that we discussed here today, from your resumes to your direction and where you want to go. Professionals can have those conversations with you, right? Whether they're in your industry or not. But yes, it is helpful if somebody, for instance, with Dr. Jasinski is another faculty member that can really communicate to you kind of, okay, this is what you should expect if you want to take that next step into seeking professorship, if you want to take that next step into seeking tenure, these are some of the expectations. And if you want to hear from another faculty member, I can connect you with another faculty member to give you some of those expectations, give you some more background. Same thing with staff members. You find that one mentor, that connector. I'm definitely that connector. I like to do that. I'm all about building relationships. I automatically think about when I'm talking to somebody, okay, I can connect you to this person, this person, this person, and this person. They'll be able to elaborate on that a little bit more. So again, if you are that individual, like, where do I start? Let's start, work your way in, things that places that you kind of see yourself normally going, work and, your associations and church and things that you do, and then start seeking yourself, trust me, somebody will be in there, right? It's just taking that time to cultivate that relationship. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And can I add something? And I'll also say with that piece, throughout having conversations with individuals and connecting with individuals, making it known what's your reasoning for connecting with them or what you would like. So a lot of times people will connect with individuals, ask them to be their mentors, but they never have those conversations about, these are my goals, these are my aspirations in the future. You know, yes, I would like to get more experience in research, or I would aspire to be in a leadership position. And so that can help one dictate what that relationship will look like, what type of advice that they will provide to you and guidance. But then also when opportunities arise, they know, oh, this person's looking for this, I can refer them to that opportunity. You know, sometimes people, they know a lot of people, but things aren't actually moving because they haven't made that ask, and people don't know that they're actually looking to, you know, aspire to, you know, different roles. So I would just say throughout that conversation, making sure that whatever your goals are, that you have that conversation with individuals, so that they know that. Now, there are times where people are what we call sponsors, where they see you, you're doing great, you have all these skills, and they tap you on the shoulder and they kind of bring you along and say, I have this project for you or this initiative. But that doesn't always happen. So sometimes you have to be the one to kind of initiate that and put yourself out there and at least know, let people know what that ask is. And I know I'm an introvert. I know a lot of people don't believe it, but I am an introvert. And so I always think, you know, try to be very strategic with those. And at some point, you know, kind of muster that up to let individuals know that this is my reasoning for really wanting to connect with them.
Awesome. Wonderful insight. Would anybody else like to share any additional advice before we move?
I would add just one thing, if I could, Lori, and that's mentoring relationships are just that, they're relationships. They're two ways. So it is important to understand that as a mentee, you have something to offer the mentor as well. And it's something that the mentor learns and can learn from you as well. So it's not just, here I am, give me all of your expertise. And, you know, it's really, how can we have a conversation and learn from each other? And that's really important. I know I've learned a lot from the folks that I've mentored and worked with, and it's really helped me grow. So I think that's really important to understand. It is a relationship that's beneficial to both individuals.
Yes. Building relationships and uplifting one another and helping those understand the possibilities is key to success, essentially. So we're about to move into our question and answer session. Thank you so much, panelists, for your wonderful advice thus far. So as let me check the chat. I believe, Mr. Gordon, you're going to help me with this as well.
Yes.
I do have one additional question for Sherry Ann, right? A week ago or so, there was a recruiter who went viral because she said she gave a new hire a lower salary than what was budgeted for due to the new hire not negotiating for the higher salary. In the world of salaries, I know, you know, here at UCF, they're not posted, which I really, you know, typically it's the minimum salary. And I think most of the time they tell us we have to start at the minimum. You don't have but what, maybe a 10% negotiation room within that salary. And so how do we find out, you know, what we're worth within a company? And then how would we ask for, you know, that salary?
I do believe I saw that piece on LinkedIn. It's always good to negotiate. I can say that. I can speak on UCF when it comes to salaries. Depending on the job, it's going to list a minimum salary, or it's going to typically say minimum to negotiable or negotiable. So you always do want to negotiate. Being a public institution, you know, our salary, you know, minimum to mid to the max are actually listed online on the website. So if you would do a little digging, you can find where the range is. We have a separate compensation department here at the school. So they do take a lot of things into consideration when it comes to salaries for the position. Your education, do you have the bachelor's or do you have that higher master's degree that's they're also looking for? And then again, how many years of experience? It's all going to be playing the factors of what the initial salary that they're going to propose to you as. In addition, also takes into consideration what peers in the department are also currently at as far as the range as well. So, but again, knowing your worth, what you currently make, your aspirations, that figure that they give you, if you are looking for a certain number, I would say, this is what, pose it as, this is what I was actually thinking more of, and then just see where you can go from there with it, but always negotiable.
Mm-hmm. And do you know at UCF, are you at risk of, if you want a certain number, can they retract their offer?
I have not seen that before.
Oh, okay.
So it's just you in agreement. It's mostly the applicant will retract if they can't find a middle ground.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So Veronica, this question is for you. Outside of earning another degree, what are some of the best practices for transitioning into a new career, but you're somewhat related to your industry, but you don't have that detailed experience?
So I would say the first thing is, one, looking at the actual job and not concentrating so much on the industry. So I think, individuals that work in higher education, you'll be surprised at what, private sector or other nonprofit or public sectors have jobs, have roles, positions that are very similar to what you're already doing. So I would say, one, just kind of cutting that piece out and really looking at the positions that you are interested in. Looking at the job description. So what skills are they, looking for? If you would meet the minimum education requirements, then it's just really looking at what skills, what experiences are they looking for, and doing that self-evaluation of where are your gaps, and then thinking about what opportunities can you take advantage of to fill those gaps. So, if it's, a certain certification that's not a degree, maybe it's going on LinkedIn and seeing if you can become familiar with that software, or again, thinking about those volunteer opportunities outside of your role that you can gain some of that experience in. So that's what I would say, is really thinking about what are all of the ways that you can gain experience that may not be within your role. And then sometimes it's having that transparent conversation with your supervisor and saying, not necessarily saying that you're trying to leave, but say that you have, aspirations for certain types of positions. And this is the gap that you see within your skills and experiences. Are there opportunities within the office for you to be a part of projects or initiatives where you can gain those experiences or those skills?
Awesome. Thank you. My next question is for Jana. With there being such a large number of people applying for faculty roles, what is the one thing that can make a faculty candidate stand out?
That's a really good question. It's probably not just one thing. When you read applicants for faculty positions, particularly tenure track positions, they are just amazing candidates. And what makes them amazing is, in the world of academics, it's publications in peer-reviewed journals, it's presentations at academic conferences. In some cases, it's experience both writing grants and receiving grants. And the people who tend to really float to the top are the ones that have multiple of those. I see brand new faculty applicants out of graduate school now coming in with what many of us had to have to get tenure. So the bar is just really, really increased. So what's going to make you stand out is, do you have those publications? Are they in good outlets? Have you had the experience? And I focus on that because for tenure track positions, that's actually what draws the attention. The teaching is important, but the publications are really an indicator of where you'll go moving forward. So they're going to focus a lot on those for those types of positions.
Okay. And then can you share, how do you identify what those top tier journals are? Because we see so many, faculty members, publishing, but often peers will feel that that's not a top tier journal. So how do you identify that?
That's a really good question. I would say there's a couple of ways. One is there are outlets like Google Scholar that actually rank journals. And so they'll tell you if your journal's in a particular area or in a top quartile, second quartile. My own area of research is violence against women. So there's not a very specific violence against women area in Google Scholar, but it talks about women and gender studies. And I can find my journals in there and say, okay, well, where is it? You can also get from journal web pages their acceptance rates, and the ones that have very low acceptance rates are often the ones that are top tier. Now, the real challenge with this, and I will just say this, is that if you're an interdisciplinary scholar, it is very hard because many top tier journals are very traditional and narrow and very discipline specific, not interdisciplinary. So to make that argument, you want to talk about how your work is in really good high quality journals that are for that area, very important. And also I would say ask other faculty, and maybe not the ones you're applying for the job for, but other faculty in the discipline, what do you think of a top tier journal? Impact factor is another way to measure that in some respects, although that varies by discipline. That's a really long answer and not a
But that's okay.
quite focused answer, but
thank you. For Courtney, how do you stay motivated during the job search process and then without allowing imposter syndrome to kick in?
Yeah, no, great question. And, I'm sure you guys have heard that notion of finding a job is like a job, right? That's true. And sometimes you're working two jobs, right? Especially if you're in your current position. But with that being said, I'm going to kind of approach this from, so my background is counseling. So I'm going to kind of approach this from that counseling perspective. So it's very important that you self-reflect. And, sometimes people are kind of thrown off by that, like what does self-reflect have to do with the job? And I'm going to say this again, it's very important that you self-reflect, okay? Because just think about it, when you're not at home, we're probably doing something with work, right? As far as percentages wise, we spend a lot of our time at home and a lot of our time at work, right? We may have other we have other activities that we do out there, but as far as percentages between the two of those, right? That is where we are. So we want to make sure that we are seeking purpose and fulfillment in those. Okay, that's important. So when I look at the job search, and prior to looking at the job search, I'm very much so looking for me continuing to kind of step into a calling, kind of step into a purpose, right? I think we all know that education is it doesn't pay. It's not this $1 million job that you get, all the time, right? And I'm pretty sure that everybody that is as a faculty member and that is here and staff that has been here for a while can say that they're probably, stepping into this calling. Everybody that I know here, we absolutely love what we do. So when you're searching for that job, that is how I stay motivated, that I'm walking into a calling, I'm walking into a purpose. And yes, I'm searching for something that will allow me to continue to develop, to grow and to build. Okay. Another thing that a good friend of mine always says is what's for you is for you. Okay. You could have done everything right. And you could have had a great cover letter, great resume, great interview. You did everything that was on point, right? But there may be something that you don't know that may be, just wasn't for you at the time, right? I always tell students it's like a triangle. You have the employer, you have the position, and then you have yourself. Everyone else everybody has to kind of click and fit into this nice little triangle. And sometimes that doesn't happen. Sometimes it's just, maybe you didn't necessarily, mesh well with the employer. The job was perfect, but, the organization and the industry wasn't, not the industry, but the company, right? The organization wasn't just what, kind of what you were looking for after you probably done the interview. So when you're on this job search, you have to stay motivated in the sense that, okay, I'm searching for my calling, I'm searching for my purpose. Yes, I have these things that I need to consider, like salary, like cost of living, like all of these things. Those are just responsibilities. We all have those things. But with that being said, I am searching for that place that I'm supposed to be, that I'm supposed to grow, that I'm supposed to develop, and that it's on my track and trajectory to get to where I want to go. Okay. And that's how you start also weeding out things too, things that you want to move forward and apply for, things that you're like, no, I don't think that's necessarily for me, things that you're like, oh, maybe I should give this a try. And that's why we've all, this whole time we've also communicated mentorship as well. And I'll put that out again. You have to bounce some of these things off of your mentors, people that, know you, but also know you enough to say, yes, I think we should consider this. You should challenge yourself in this way. Or how about you do talk to this person over here that has done something like this and get a little bit more insight about that organization or that position, right? So I guess bottom line is staying motivated and knowing your direction and where you want to go, have that self-reflection, continue to, lean into those, mentors and those relationships that you've built to kind of help and mold as you develop into that next stage in your life and your job search.
Awesome. I love that. Go, grow, develop, move forward, and be connected, right, with someone that can help you along your journey. Awesome. So this question is for anyone on the panel that would love to answer. What do you do if you're not happy in a role? What advice would you give? And you're not happy with the salary. What would be your advice on leveraging a higher pay or maybe changing roles within the same organization? And then how would you facilitate that conversation with your supervisor?
So I can start. The first thing that I would say is kind of to Courtney's point at the beginning, that reflection piece. So sometimes you have to know the industry that you're in. So we hear this conversation a lot in higher education, and sometimes in higher education, we don't have that power to negotiate salaries like people in the private industry. So sometimes you just have to come to that realization that that's what that is. Also, institutions, a lot of salary information, a lot of job, specs are public information. So sometimes it's going to take a little bit of work on your part, maybe going and looking at your role, looking at how the university classifies roles that are similar to yours and seeing what that salary range is. And then having that conversation and saying, oh, well, position A in this department is very similar to mine, and this person is getting paid $5,000 more. And we're doing the exact same thing or very similar things. And so that is your leverage to be able to have that conversation. As far as facilitating that conversations with your current supervisors, just depending on the type of relationship that you have. So some of you may have, regular one-on-one meetings. So that's your opportunity to bring it up during your one-on-one meetings. So I think finding someone that you feel comfortable with having that conversation, and then also knowing sort of what's your worth and what's your threshold. So after you've done all of those things, if the department or, the organization comes back and says, unfortunately, we can't move your salary, then you ultimately making that decision to say, okay, is this no longer the opportunity for me? Or I feel like I'm worth more money, and so I may have to seek opportunities elsewhere.
And just to piggyback off of that, I would say, again, if you're happy in your role, you're happy in your department, if your bandwidth allows, take on those extra responsibilities that your supervisor may be able to give to you. And they might have knowledge, or again, you might have knowledge of maybe a position that they aren't utilizing in your department that they can to bring there and to put you in with that higher salary. So just volunteer, take on new responsibilities whenever possible.
Anybody else? That makes me think about Les Brown's comment, do more than you are expected to do, and one more, you'll be paid more for what you do. So that's also very important. I believe we're coming to the end of our hour. Thank you to our wonderful panelists. I believe that we have definitely leveled up today. Thank you for sharing your wonderful insights, your thoughts, your guidance. I'm sure that our attendees have received valuable information. Thank you so much.
And thank you again, everybody, for attending. On behalf of the Black Faculty and Staff Association, want to remind you, this is just part one of our 4-part conversation series. I want to take time to thank all of our panelists. Thank you so much, so much, so much. These ladies are a wealth of information. We hope that, if you are a UCF employee or you are somebody external of UCF and got a chance to catch this conversation, that it was helpful for you and the information was helpful to you, and wanted to just reiterate some of the things that BFSA is also doing. So we have partnered with, on the vein of mentorship, we have launched a faculty and a staff mentorship for our people of color as well here at the university. So that's something you can take advantage of. I know that Courtney Hand works in UCF's Career Services office. So that's another resource just to kind of, solidify what you're looking for. Our HR department, we had Ms. Sherry Ann Stewart who came in, who talked about, HR. So a lot of times we're a little bit afraid, but we do want to make sure that we reach out to our HR representatives. I believe each college has an HR representative within your particular college or division that you can reach out to about some of these questions. Now that you've armed yourself with this information, now is the time to seek those people out and reach out to them and say, ask those questions and really find out, what it is you can do. Thank you to Dr. Jenna Jasinski from Faculty Excellence. I know that they're always ongoing and producing different things that faculty members can do in reference to professional development and honing their craft and just really becoming the best faculty member possible. So definitely questions about that. All that information is available online. To Veronica Haynes, thank you so much from Experiential Learning. She deals with employers and internships and all those things related to professional development as well. So definitely, if there are additional questions or concerns about, how can I build this professional development? How can I, seek out an opportunity? Again, don't tell nobody Mr. Gordon sent you somewhere for a paid opportunity now. I'm not saying she's going to get you a job, but, definitely, as we discussed, looking at some of those opportunities that you can look at that may not be paid, but may be helpful to advance you in your career. And then to our wonderful moderator, Ms. Lori Safford, thank you to her. Lori has been a longstanding director here. So just her vast knowledge in reference to navigating, maneuvering to her role here at UCF, being one of the only or few directors of color here at the university is definitely instrumental in what we wanted to bring to the conversation. So I want to thank you all again for joining the Black Faculty Staffing Association. If there are any questions about joining the organization, you can visit BFSA, which is BFSA-UCF at .org. And you can visit our website, or if you are an internal employee and you have kudos or you have additional questions, feel free to reach out to me directly via Teams or Skype. With that being said, we want to do everybody a great day. It is 1 o'clock, so we want to be respectful of your time. I know this is the lunch hour. So everybody have a good day. And yeah, we appreciate you for joining us for this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.
You too.
You're welcome. Thank you.